it was rough. And honestly, I think that's something that's made us and into who we are now.
Yeah.
It taught me that I can be self-reliant, that I can, like, no matter what happens, like, we'll make it somehow.
Yeah. It's the Germany Experience, the podcast about life in Germany as seen through the eyes of outsiders. And welcome to episode 40. Episode 40, can you believe that? This show is almost at its 1-year anniversary. Next month, 29th of May, 2019 was when the first episode went out. So we're almost there. Look at that. My guests in this episode met in California and moved to Germany 7 years ago, pretty much without a plan. And I had a wonderful chat with them in their dining room over a few beers. And if you want to skip straight to the interview, you can do just that if your podcast app supports chapters. So skip ahead if you wanna. But first, I have to tell you this. This is amazing to me. If you have spent at least one spring in Germany, you'll know that this right now, April, is a hallowed time in the year because it's Spargel season or asparagus season. And when I first moved here, I was surprised at how much Germans love asparagus. I mean, to me, back home, asparagus was always just a side vegetable that occasionally made an appearance with meals. But here in Germany, it is an event when the white asparagus is ready from the 1st of April until I think the June 24th it's available. It's only available in those months, and it's an event. Germans go crazy for it. But, as you know, we're in the middle of a pandemic, but that is not going to stop Germans from getting their Spargel. In Kremen in Brandenburg, some farmers have put up a Spargel drive-in. I kid you not. I put the link to the Twitter in the show notes. And so it pretty much works like a McDonald's. You drive up, order what you want, and you drive away with your asparagus. Amazing. I mean, if that doesn't show how much Germans love their asparagus, then I don't know what. That's incredible. This week I was featured on a YouTube channel called Desi in Wonderland, and it is run by Gibran. Now, if you remember back in December, Gibran was a guest on my podcast, and we spoke about the ways that Germany has changed us. So habits that we've changed, parts of our personalities that have changed because of us living in Germany. So go and check out that episode. It was a lot of fun. And now Gibran invited me on his show to talk about finding a job in Germany. So go and have a look at that. The link is also, as I keep on saying, in the show notes. And thanks to Gibran for having me on his YouTube show. And now on to the guests for this week, Greg and Brigida. Greg has been a colleague of mine for a few years, and he just exudes California mentality. He always comes across as very chilled, and he's just a super nice guy. And I've wanted to get him on the show for a while because he's also very interesting. And whenever we get together, we just have a lot of laughs and good conversation. So I've been trying to get him on the podcast for a while. And in mid-March, I went around to his house and sat down with him and his wife, Brigida, to talk about their story. And one of the things that I loved about talking to them is that you can just, I mean, this is going to sound really cheesy to say, but you can just feel the love when you're talking to them. They've been together for a long time. They've known each other for, I think, over 20 years. And you really get that sense when you're talking to them. And we get into their story of how they came to Germany and the adversity and heartbreak that they were met with almost as soon as they arrived. And I also learned something about Greg that I didn't know before, and that's that he struggled with anxiety. So we also go into what it was like moving to Germany as someone with anxiety. Greg also brews his own beer. He's into home brewing, and we had a good discussion about that as well, but that is coming out as a bonus episode later this week about brewing beer. In the meantime, you can check out his website, brewwizard.com. That's brew-wizard.com. And what he's done is set up a website that helps people put together recipes for brewing from home. So definitely check that out and listen to the bonus episode that's coming out later this week. Greg and Brigida, by the way, were also the last guests that I interviewed face-to-face before the whole coronavirus restrictions were put in place in Bavaria. So the sound is a bit different since we were drinking beer and chatting in their dining room with only 2 mics between the 3 of us. But it still turned out great. Here is the story of Greg and Brigida. I'm sitting in the living room here with a colleague of mine, actually, Greg. Welcome to the show. And his other half, Brigida. So what is this beer that I'm drinking there? I'm drinking...
That's the Green Monkey from Weißenohe.
Weißenohe.
Yeah, it's actually a brewery here in the Fränkische Schweiz, and they actually still brew. The monks actually still brew.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's one of the few remaining monastery breweries here in the Fränkische Schweiz.
Okay. You guys just had a new baby about the same time as my baby was born, actually.
I think it was 4 weeks or 5 weeks after yours. So October 29th is when ours was born.
But you guys waited really long for your kids to come out, because I think our due dates were very similar, weren't they?
Your baby came, I think, a week early, and ours came 3 weeks late.
Almost 14 days.
Yeah.
14 days late.
And she was massive.
I keep hearing about this big baby.
4.5 kilos.
Yeah, that's a big baby.
Yeah.
Ours was 3.7, and we considered her, like, the nurses and said, that's a big baby. I'm like, well, a few weeks later, I would say, well, maybe it wasn't so big.
Yeah.
But so we got babies about the same age. And then you got another kid who's about two. Or just about to be 2.
Going to be 2 pretty soon. It's fun.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. Terrible 2s are wonderful.
Yeah, I remember the tantrum phase.
Yeah. Well, like Brigida was saying earlier, it's just like, oh, let's put this jacket on. No, I don't want that jacket. Okay, which jacket would you like? None.
And it's, by the way, freezing cold outside.
It's literally 2 degrees outside, and he's just like, well, you need a jacket. No. Okay, then you're going to go outside without a jacket.
Yeah, that's the only thing you can do.
Well, we're kind of out of options now.
We're at what they call an impasse, kid. And this ends badly for one of us.
Yeah. No, it's been interesting lately, definitely.
Yeah.
But,
I found with my daughter, it went on from about just before 2 until I think it was about a year with but she really had some amazing tantrums. Like amazing, spectacular tantrums that I received.
So far,
it's only been when
clothing.
we need to leave the house.
It's only been clothing.
Really?
Yeah. So like we had snow one time this year. One time this year. And I'm like super excited. I'm like, yes, we have snow.
Go in the snow.
Let's go sledding. Let's do all this stuff. Like put on your snowsuit. And he's just like, nope.
What do you mean no?
And we're like, we're gonna look at everything's beautiful. There's snow outside. Let's go play.
But
and
it's just at home.
Snowsuit.
Really?
Nope. Yeah, it's cool.
I hate that. We also hear that from our kindergarten people. They like we when she was going through a really harsh phase, we spoke to her. It's here, the caretaker's there, and I said, "How is she? Is she horrible?" And they're like, "No, she's a delightful young lady." I'm like, what the fuck kid are you talking about? That's not my kid. Are you sure we're talking about the right one here? Yeah. Because she's like kind of a little blonde, and my God, who? Yeah. So sorry, you were saying?
No, it's exactly that. Her caregiver. I've talked to her several times now, and it's like, hey, Caston, what happens when you put a snowsuit on? We go outside afterwards.
And he has fun. And we're like, so he doesn't screech and piss and moan for 20 minutes?
I am perplexed at this
child.
child.
Amazing.
He's not dumb.
But what is it that, what do you think that is? Because I've wondered myself, why is my kid an absolute angel with strangers at a kindergarten and can't be like that with me?
But I don't think it's necessarily just at the kindergarten. I think it's just with strangers in general. So like we have really good friends, and it's like when they ask him to do something, no big deal. Put my shoes on, let's do it.
Jacket? Why not?
Of course. And then we're just like, do you want to try the new jacket from Grandma? Brother, hell, you're just like, dude, what is the difference? Like, this is a wonderful warm jacket. No, he's against it because we're for it.
Yeah, we had a similar thing with last year when it snowed. It also didn't snow much last year.
Right.
I've been so excited. I come from South Africa, for goodness sake. Like, we don't have snow where we grew up.
Yeah, it's like California. And I was same thing.
Yeah, California. So when it comes to my kids, I'm like, oh man, it's going to be so amazing when it snows. We're in Europe. This is the kind of life we're giving them now. Right. We can go and then it snowed, and we had sleds. We bought sleds to take them out. Do you think I could get them out the door to go sledding? No.
Not a chance.
No. So I fought with it. Both my son and my daughter, I fought with them for ages. And then I was manipulating, and I was like trying to offer some kind of exchange. Like, if you do this, you can have whatever you want for supper. I don't know. It was a long discussion.
Pure candy for dinner for 2 weeks.
I'll give you cake.
Just sugar.
And they both were just, my son was screaming, then my daughter was screaming. And eventually I got them dressed up, and we went out the door with the sleds. And then we walked down the road with me like 2 sleds in tow, and finally the kids are quite happy, and then they got excited about sledding. And then I realized there's not enough fucking snow to sled. So I had to get them back. And then it was another fight. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot do anything with you. Now you don't want to go home. 20 minutes ago, you didn't want to leave the house.
Same thing happened to us.
This is verbatim what happened to us too.
Really?
We finally get him in this snowsuit, and I put Brigida on the sled and Oliver on the sled. I try to start towing him down the hill, and the thing just stops. It just stops, and we're just like, I'm like, yeah, and like it just stops dead, and he's just like,
And it's stuck in mud because
this
I'm
is
too
supposed
heavy.
to be fun. Like he just looks at me like,
This is not fun, Dad.
you finally got me in this snowsuit, and now we're doing this.
This is what I got all dressed up for.
And then Greg tries to make
next
it fun.
time. Let's just nah.
Greg tries to make it even make a bad situation fun.
Yeah.
And he makes a snowball and he throws it at Oliver. And Oliver starts crying.
Just like, why would you injure me in such a way? And I'm just like,
And then Greg
dude,
tries to
this is
explain to him.
fun.
Yeah.
Look, we throw things. We throw snow at each other. This is
we
the
don't
way
throw
we have fun.
anything at one another
Exactly.
except for snow. Snow is cool. Like, and I'm trying to
It's
this
so-
is cool.
And so
My
his mind
demented
is
mind.
just like
Like the kids-
melting, trying to figure out why it's okay to be throwing snow and not pens.
But we
let's see.
never throw things at each other. I don't
Like,
understand.
the lesson you're teaching me at home is that I can't throw things at home, but now it's okay.
But now it's cool.
Oh, it was
It's like-
horrible. It was the poor little kid.
So we've been sent home to work from home for the next few weeks. The schools are shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been sent home, but you were already a proponent of working from home. That's something you support hugely,
No,
right?
I'm huge about that, man.
Yeah.
I honestly, for a company that produces nothing but essentially like intellectual property. I mean, all we do is sit there and write code. Like, there's no real reason why we actually have to physically be in the office every day for most of us. And so at the end of the day, it's just like, in terms of climate change, I mean, it's like the amount of effort and the amount of energy that's spent just having people drive in and out of work. And what are you doing essentially at the end of the day? You're writing code and you're checking it in, and it's all remote essentially. It's just whether you're actually at the office or not. And when you're at the office, what are you really doing?
Yeah.
You just have a bunch of bullshit meetings.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's the nature of the game.
Yeah. I also think something that we've discussed as well, Greg, is I think it's going to change the mindset of a lot of companies because Germany has been pretty slow to adopt this work from home. They call it home office. Don't you love that?
I do. No, when people
Home
write, they
office.
drop the E on accident and they just say home O.
Oh.
It's like, hey, I'm doing
I've
homo.
seen that.
Have you not seen that? Dude, that happens all the time.
I'm sorry, I'm working homo.
Yeah, seriously, dude, I've seen that in my team multiple times. I remember like when I
Guys,
first
don't do that. Germans, do not do that.
it's home, HOME, and then an
Oh.
capital O. Yeah, home office. No, and oftentimes because they didn't, because German's a very literal, it's a very phonetic language, and so
Yeah,
it's like
sure.
homo.
Yeah,
H-O-M-O.
It makes perfect sense.
HOMO. Yeah, and then I'd be like, hey guys, I'm doing homo today, and I'm like,
No, you're not.
I think you might want to revise that a little bit, maybe retract that statement. No, and it actually, I think it was even this week. I think he did it by accident, but one of our guys on our team was just like, "Hey guys, I'm at home today," and I'm like,
Okay, good for you.
"Yep." It's like,
Thanks for being so open
yeah, exactly.
about your preferences. That is ridiculous. I've not seen that. Thank goodness my team does not go for that. I would stop
To
that.
be fair, yeah, when I first came to Germany and I was learning the German language, I was trying to say that I was actually going to change from being in home office to coming into the office.
Okay.
Except for that I had put it in a grammatical way that was actually basically that I was coming into the office.
With a U.
And one guy on the team was just like, dude,
Yeah.
you don't want to say in, you want to say in. I don't know other way
Yeah.
around. I don't even know. Sure.
Yeah,
He's just like, do you want to say you're coming ins or im?
Because that's a big difference.
Sure? Yeah, he's like, grammar in German is difficult sometimes. And I'm like, oh shit.
But it's good. It's good when they tell you that. I think it is. I like it when people tell me because even if it's a really embarrassing thing that I've said, I want to know if I've said something that's absolutely ridiculous.
And the thing is, like after that point, I am very, very careful about how I'm coming into the office. Like, every time I write that, I'm like, what was it again?
So if Greg says he is coming in the office, he means he's coming in the office.
Going to drive to the office and go into the building. Go into the building.
But I feel like we're allowed to laugh at the Germans because we've made enough mistakes. As foreigners in German, we make I make so many mistakes. My wife made one of my favorite mistakes when she was the whole situation was a bit ridiculous, but she works for a engineering company and they make ball bearings. So what they wanted to do, they had like this ball bearing unit, as they do, and they needed for some catalog or other, they needed someone's hands in a picture, like holding the ball bearings. So they needed a hand model basically. So they asked my wife, because she was, I think, one of the only females around or whatever, being an engineering firm. And they asked her, like, could you be the hand model for this picture? And she tried to say, I'm not a normal woman. Like, I don't have manicured nails and like I don't do my nails. But what she ended up saying was, "Ich bin kein echte Frau. I'm not a real woman." Like,
oh God.
That's awesome.
And that's something that they never let her like get away from.
I'm
it's
sure
one of those
they
things
didn't let her live it down at all.
You can't walk away from that.
No, you can't. You like that's part of the fun of it. So yeah, you actually caused some difficulties for me though, Greg, because someone came up to me a while ago. She said, "Sean," and she pulled me aside. Actually, it was like very, very, very official. She said, "Sean, Greg told me that he hates it when I switch to English when we're talking."
Yeah.
Do you hate that as well? I'm like, no, I fucking love it. Please don't stop talking. And she's like, no, because we can stop. We could just do everything in German. I'm like, no, please stay in English. Please stay in English. But you were saying like you dislike when you're talking to a German in German and then they switch to English.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like when we got married, I put in 2 years of effort, like literally night school, 2 years, a year and a half, give or take. And I got my associate's degree in German. And honestly, like we then about a year later or so, we moved to Germany and I couldn't speak shit for German.
Right.
Like really, like I found out how poor my German really was, right?
Conversational German was poor, but understanding and the whole
reading, writing, that was okay.
Grammar, he was awesome.
But then you'd get into a conversation with somebody who would start speaking Franconian. I had no fucking chance. Like literally no chance. Like I would talk to her grandmother, I would talk to her uncle and things like that. And I'm just like, is this really German? I'm not sure what the hell they're speaking right now. Yeah. And so, but after a time, like I adapted to that, right? Like, so when I came to Paisler, I told everybody there, I was just like, I don't only want to speak German. If you need to practice your English with me, okay, we can practice English, but please like tell me beforehand so that I know. But otherwise I want to speak German because I want to know whether or not I can speak German well enough to make it. Yeah, essentially, and that's the thing. As being a foreigner in this country, I felt it my responsibility to learn the language out of respect, essentially, and also because there's always going to be awkward situations. Like it's 2 a.m. when you want to buy a bratwurstkek or whatever. You want to know what the hell you're actually buying, right? Like, and you want to know what the hell it actually costs. Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing. And it's just in to be at that level of comfort with a language, you have to do it every day. Yeah, in my opinion. Yeah, you have to pound it every single day. Like, and so I would go into meetings and I would have literally no idea what was going on, or maybe I'd catch 20%. Then I'd come out of the meeting and I'd just be like, "So what the hell was that?" Like, and I would just like one verb or like one noun, and I'm like, "What exactly?" And they would kind of construct the whole thing, and I would kind of adapt and figure it out. And so I've gotten that, and I've given so much effort to it that like if I start speaking to somebody in German, and I have to admit, like I've gotten the compliment quite often that that I can speak German fairly well without too much of an accent. And so if somebody then switches to English when they're not an English speaker, with me, I just feel kind of like, well, where did I fuck up? Yeah. Okay. Where did I go wrong? Right. Like, where did I make the mistake to make you think that I don't understand your German well enough that you cannot speak German to me? Yeah. And
then you found out that Germans like to show off how much
English.
How little
they do,
English.
Don't they?
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're very impressed.
They can't wait to switch.
Let me do my English with you, and it's just like, all right.
That's not.
That's cool. I've done that all my life, but and I didn't exactly move to learn German, but I did move to learn German. Like that was
part of it.
It was a huge part of it for me. It was just like not only to learn the culture, but the language, and to kind of adapt to the whole thing. But then there's this kind of I don't want to say Americanization of German society lately, but there's a lot of people who are just like, check it out, I can say fucking English. It's like,
What, so,
dude.
Okay.
Yeah, so can everybody, but all right.
They love saying fucking
Oh,
German.
yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Which is great for me because I say fuck.
Yeah, you were quite a
constantly.
potty mouth, Greg.
Yeah, but it's a challenge. And that's the thing. It's just like, I don't know. It's hard for me because, like I said, I've given so much effort into learning the language. Not only because that's where Brigida's family comes from, that's where now my family comes from.
Yeah.
And just understanding the culture, you have to be able to understand the culture. You have to understand language, really. And that's something that I've personally learned because I learned my second language when I was 25, essentially. And having learned it at such a late age, I was kind of able to reflect on it and understand how much of a difference that makes in like your cognition.
Yeah.
Like literally, like when you think in German, you think differently than when you think in English. And there's no other way to describe it. And people who have grown up with two languages, whatever, they understand that immediately, or that's kind of intuitive. But for me, it was just like this light
mind
bulb.
blown.
I was literally mind blown where I'm like, now I get so much more about the culture because of the language.
I understand my wife better.
Yeah, totally. I understand my mother-in-law better. I understand my sister-in-law better. I understand my wife better because I understand German and to understand that piece of that culture and moving here without learning the language and moving to a country, I think you're missing out on a significant portion of what's going on.
Yeah.
But that challenge has been fun for me. And I think that's one of the reasons that I've been so happy living in Germany these last years.
So let's get into how you came to California. So you're actually German, which I didn't pick up from when I listen to you talk.
No. I've washed my dialect completely out, probably.
Okay.
So my mom's German, grew up in Unterfranken, in the Main Franconian region, and then met my dad, military in the 70s. Got married, had my sister, Army brat, all the way to California, where I was born. And then I've grown up between Southern California and Germany.
Okay.
Yeah. So Greg and I started dating. We know each other forever.
The way she says that, the tone.
No, unfortunately.
Forever.
God damn.
I mean, I know every single one of his ex-girlfriends.
Really? So you guys knew each other before you were dating?
Oh,
Yeah. No, we've known each other since we were 10.
We're going on our 25th year knowing each other.
Yeah.
So growing up in California, growing up here, Greg knew my background story. Greg knew every summer that I'd go to Germany, and
You should just go missing.
I'd go missing for months. And then we dated in high school, broke up, didn't hear from each other for years. It was a bad breakup.
It was.
Greg broke my heart.
Oh.
It's on the
That
record
story.
now.
There we go. It's on a podcast, so you're an asshole, Greg.
Given.
He's not even, like, yeah,
I'm not even
it's
gonna fight
true.
that.
It is
I'm
true.
not
I am,
even gonna
and maybe not even because of the breakup. Just like generally, I'm an asshole.
I'll own it.
Except what you are.
No, and years later, Greg calls me up one day and he's like, "I need my coffee buddy back."
Coffee/surfing buddy.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
We'd basically go to Starbucks, get some coffee, and then go surfing for an hour or two.
Okay,
And
that is so Californian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and it just came very naturally, and it was just like I was going through a rough patch, and it was just like, dude, I just want to go surfing with somebody who can kind of. Brigida was always a very grounding person for me, even when we weren't together.
Yeah.
And we actually hung out for quite some time, just kind of bitching about our respective whomever's partners. And then there was kind of a lull, and then all of a sudden it was just like, hey, I'm hanging out. Do you want to go to this party? And things just kind of took off from there because we were actually finally both single, basically, and it was just like, well, shit.
Let's try this again.
It's like this is happening.
Yeah, and
I was very upfront. I was going to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo at the time, and I told him, I go, if this is going anywhere, I have a goal to go help my grandma live out the rest of her days in Germany.
Okay.
She's very upfront about it.
And then Greg took it serious and started his first German courses a few years after that.
Okay.
And we started looking for jobs, both of us, right away.
Yeah.
And
that went on for a good year. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just applying.
While you were still in California.
Yeah. And that was the thing, though. It's just like I
No
wasn't
one wanted
getting
to
any
do-
bites
yeah.
whatsoever. And then I'd worked at a startup for a while that actually used Peer-to-G. And I knew they were in Nuremberg. And so we came over here for Christmas break to visit her grandma, visit her family and stuff. And I was just like, hey, you know what the hell? I'm just going to apply at that place and see what the hell happens. And Dirk wrote me back a day later. And he was like, hey, you want to come down for an interview? I'm like,
yeah,
fuck. And 3 or 4 days later, they're just like, here's an Angebot. And I'm just like,
here's your offer. Take it or leave it.
and I remember very distinctly, like there was, I don't know, were you at the old office?
No. I never saw the old office.
So it was like the old
Before
part of
my time.
Nuremberg.
Yeah, it's a nice one.
And right across the street, there was this coffee shop. So I'd gone to the job interview and Brigida had waited for me at the coffee shop. And I came out and that same day, I think, or the day before, she had gotten a job offer. And so we kind of were just driving home back to her grandma's house and we were just kind of like,
Looks like this is happening.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, like literally, we're just like,
Well, this
fuck,
is,
you got a job. I got a job.
is
It's
way too
Christmas
easy.
time, but we still got jobs. Like,
This is happening.
this kind of has to happen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
If
can we really deny this?
If we fight this, is it gonna be like
or do we just?
anti-karma? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, are we fighting our destiny? Like the
exactly.
universe is like giving unto you, and you're like, no thanks.
Yeah, just
we're
like,
good.
yeah, fuck you.
We're going
Yeah.
back to California.
No, and that's what we decided. We were just like, I mean, it was tough. Going back to my parents, going back to her parents and stuff. They weren't
breaking them the news.
stoked.
I mean, my mom. I mean, it was a complete opposite story. My mom left here, Germany, when she was 18,
Right.
to go with my dad, military guy, and she never looked back because she loved it.
Yeah.
And I think that was her biggest fear, and that still is her biggest fear, is that she has grandkids now, and we live we live in her homeland.
Yeah.
And she's not here
Yeah.
and not taking part of all those wonderful things of grandchildren.
Sure.
It's tough. I know it's really tough. She tells me every day.
I know it is because she tells me all the time.
pretty much.
But we just couldn't fight it. We couldn't fight it.
Yeah.
3 months later, and the swim team that I was working on at the time, one of the moms stepped up and was like, hey, I have this friend who can help you with moving. And we packed up 2 pallets, 6 feet high, with all our crap, and
Sold everything else.
sold or gave
Wow.
everything away.
That was
it?
And
Yeah.
literally 3 months later, we were in Germany.
Wow.
With nothing.
That's amazing.
With
Literally.
nothing,
Start.
because our
Yeah.
container didn't get
Oh no.
Yeah. Like, we
It
were
was
without
holding.
anything for like 3 months. Like, yeah, it was.
We had a friend who came to visit us before we even had our furniture or any of our boxes.
So your apartment was just
Literally, we were
Nothing.
sitting on the floor with like pads underneath our butt, like on my laptop, just like watching Game of Thrones.
Watching
just like,
Netflix, yeah.
Cool.
well, you had the basics really. You did.
Game of Thrones, cushions, beer.
What more do you need? They're like
Who
good
gives a
times.
shit? Yeah. Blow up mattress. I mean, it's fantastic. It was rough. And honestly, I think that's something that's made us and into who we are now.
Yeah.
It taught me that I can be self-reliant, that I can, like, no matter what happens,
Yeah.
like, we'll make it somehow.
Yeah.
Whether it's through charity of friends, whether it's through circumstance, whether it's through whatever, like,
Yeah. It'll work.
It may not be the best thing in the world, but you'll make it work.
Yeah.
Right. And that was really important for me to like fight the problems that I was having with like anxiety and stuff like that. And for me, that's been a life lesson that is just always like, yeah, it's kind of shitty right now, but it's not like,
It's not going to last
sitting on
forever.
your floor, like, sleeping on an air mattress for 3 months. Shit.
Yeah.
So fuck it.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. Things are pretty good.
Yeah.
And by comparison.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it gives you kind of that baseline.
Yeah. Do you still suffer from anxiety?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do? I
Yeah.
didn't know this about you.
Yeah. Not many people do.
But now moving to a foreign country as someone with anxiety it must be pretty difficult, right? Or do you think your anxiety didn't play a big role?
It did and it didn't. Like,
It was,
I mean,
I think, one of the bigger driving forces for Greg
yeah.
to come here, to say that I can do this no matter.
I mean, the thing is, like, all right, whatever, surfing and stuff, like, I'm comfortable with that. But like rock climbing, I hate heights. I hate heights.
Always pushing his
But I rock
limits.
climb.
Okay.
And I rock climb because I know I'm horrified of it. And when Brigida was just like, hey, do you want to move to a different country? Like, the idea in and of itself, like,
terrifying.
immediate,
Sure.
my stomach was just like, but I'm like, and that's why you should do it.
Mhm.
And that was for me, like that kind of sign is just like, and I remember it like it was yesterday. We were sitting in this jacuzzi because our apartment complex had this jacuzzi, and we were talking about it. And she's like, "Are you fucking serious about this? Like,
yeah,
seriously,
yeah.
Like, do you want to do this?" And I'm like, and I thought about it, and I'm like, yes, because I want to prove to myself that I can do something that's completely outside of my wheelhouse, like something I've never done, something I've never even thought about it before, like a language that I'm barely comfortable with, and fuck it, we're just gonna move to a different country, like 10,000 miles away from anybody else we know in the entire fucking world, essentially, and just make it on our own. And for some reason, like, it was weird because like the little things always gave me anxiety. It's like, oh, I'm gonna miss this date, or I'm gonna miss this thing, or whatever, right? And like that was always causing me, like, literally I get like sweaty and like couldn't sleep at night. And then all of a sudden I'm faced with this thing where it's like, you're ditching everything you've ever fucking known, and it like pushes you so far beyond your anxiety where you're just like,
it doesn't actually matter anymore.
It doesn't.
It's like such a huge thing.
It's such a huge thing. You don't even know what to worry about anymore, right? And you're just like, well, then, fuck it. And it was really, for me, it was very liberating in the sense that, like, once we'd accomplished that, I'm just like, what else can go wrong?
Yeah.
How could it be any worse than trying to make it in a different country where you don't really know the language, where you're, you have a contract, but who knows what that really means in Germany? I didn't know at the time. I mean, in California, a contract doesn't mean fucking shit.
Yeah.
And you just lay it all online. And even my dad told me, I think when we had first moved, because we had moved and then we had expected to be able to stay with our grandmother, but our grandmother was suffering from dementia really bad.
Okay.
She kicked us out on day 3.
And she kicked us out.
Oh shit.
And like, so literally, we came in with 4 suitcases, our 2 dogs,
and a rental car. And on day 3, Grandma says, night 3. In the middle of the night.
Get out.
In the middle of the night, she says, get out.
Get the fuck out.
But that, obviously the dementia, because of the dementia.
Yeah. Right. And she goes, this is my house. This is my place.
Get these dogs out of here.
3 months prior.
What?
Yeah.
3 months prior. She was A-okay with us spending time there until we were on our feet.
Yeah. And that's what we expected. Quick. Yeah.
And so then what? You get kicked out?
We moved into a vacation home. We moved into a ferienwohnung.
So what happened that night? So you get kicked out on that night. What do you do? Yeah. You're literally on the front lawn.
We called different places to make sure that we could
we slept in the car that night, and then the next day we went to her aunt and uncle's house, and her aunt luckily called a million different places. Yeah. Found one vacation apartment for us.
Okay.
We moved into the vacation apartment. The sweetest lady in the world. Wiesenbronn, no?
Yeah.
I still remember that place. Like, she was just super awesome, super nice to our dogs, the whole thing. And then her aunt kept calling and trying to find us a place. And she found us a little tiny apartment. We lived there for 2.5 years and just got lucky. It was pure luck. And that's what my dad told me. He's just like, honestly, you guys just straight up did the whole like went with God thing.
You lucked out.
You just like walked off the plank and just went,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, praise Jesus, and hopefully this fucking works out. And it did.
But I mean, that's the grandmother that you moved over to help.
Yeah.
I mean, there was
it was heartbreaking.
That is heartbreaking. I mean, that's inconvenient on the night for you guys, but at the same time, it is heartbreaking.
The switch within the 4 months was just.
It was so drastic.
It was day and night.
It was so drastic.
Where it was like more like before, it was kind of more the needy, like, I would like to have you, and so on and so forth. And then you come back and it's just like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Why are you stealing my jobs? And I'm just like,
what?
Yeah.
Whoa.
She's like, you guys aren't even
welcome.
Like, well, you're not welcomed here.
Yeah.
You're taking the German jobs away from the German population. You need to make a plan to go home.
Yeah.
This is not your home.
Yeah. It was crazy. And it was just like,
mind you, I spent summers with this lady for my whole life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not her, basically.
No,
that's
and so it was even harder for me to wrap my head around this disease, this sickness.
Yeah.
I went at least once a week, if not twice a week, and to a closed door. She would not even open the door.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, that hurts.
It was really heartbreaking. After she broke her arm and had to be put into a convalescent home, an old people's home. They put her on her meds, so she was regularly on her meds. It got better. I was able to visit her, and our relationship towards the end of her life, last year and a half of her life, were so much better. And she got to meet Oliver, our oldest, and that's joy. Good. And so I'm really glad that I was able to have the last moments and days that I have memories of her are good. And it's heartwarming. It really is.
Yeah.
But if you would have told me after dropping everything,
that you would be kicked out of the place you're supposed to be staying.
And moving into this, my second home, basically.
Yeah.
And on day 3,
kicked out.
You put out on the street like the trash for the next day's garbage. I would have said, "You're crazy."
Yeah, that would never. That could never happen.
No, that would never happen. Mm-mm.
Wow.
But Greg and I, we've had our shares of who gets to be the strong person in our relationship.
Yeah,
and it's nice. It's nice to know that I still have my good friend, my surfboard and coffee friend.
Except no surfing. But
except for
I have to go wakeboarding now, which is okay.
Yeah,
but
it'll do.
Yeah,
it'll do. Basically, and I think we're still trying to figure out where we're going to be because Germany was supposed to only be like a 3-year plan.
Yeah.
It usually is. It was for us as well. Yeah. It was a 3-year plan.
We said 2 to 3 years. We were going to reevaluate.
I totally promised my parents it's like 2-3 years.
Don't worry, we'll be back.
Max.
Yeah, it's like
max.
It's now 2020 and we have 2 kids here.
But what did you say?
Greg speaking German.
7 years later,
yeah.
B's not going to be working and getting paid for it.
No, it's hard.
So, to finish up, I'll ask you both, what is the one bit of advice that you would offer people coming to Germany, new people coming to Germany, in the same situation that you were maybe?
Have a bigger nest egg.
Right.
I think that would definitely help.
Not like you guys just come here with nothing and nothing to fall back on.
Right? We're on the airplane with our dogs and flying over here with just suitcases and stuff.
No plans.
I'm sure a bigger nest egg would have made the first few years more enjoyable. But
well, at least in terms of trying to find an apartment.
Right.
Because oftentimes you have like the 2 to 3 months.
Rent. Oh yeah, the deposit that you need to put down is pretty.
And in between the costs of moving and the cost like the plane tickets and things like that. Yeah, we came over here with essentially like I think it was like $1,500.
Yeah, and
then we tried to rent an apartment. They're just like, well, we need 3 months rent. And we're just like, is this cool?
Like, how about this?
Yeah, no. And again, we got lucky because her aunt and uncle were just like, hey, we'll kind of vouch for them.
Okay.
And so that was the only reason we actually got that apartment. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're going to do that really on your own,
just big of a nest egg.
Yeah, you need a bit more cash, honestly.
Yeah.
Or smaller, minuscule apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Greg and I have especially coming from Southern California, a standard of living. And I was like, okay, this is our basic, this is where I want to start at. But we could have done with less. I'm sure we could have done with way less.
Yeah.
We've acquired way more since we've been here.
Yeah.
But don't fight it. I mean, Greg and I, we've been up and down and good and bad sides. And one thing that we've always fallen back on is don't fight what feels right, what feels natural.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're still in Germany.
Yeah. I mean, look at that.
We've acquired another cat. We've lost a dog.
Okay.
Our other dog's gotten older, and we've added to our family unit by 2 kids, and I don't regret it. I don't regret it at all.
Yeah. This is home. Like there's no other place that could have been home. Like here.
No, I've told quite a few people actually that when I left California, it was very liberating, and I feel like honestly I've been on vacation for the last 7 years.
Yeah.
By comparison, when I was in California, still I was working 60-hour work weeks. I was a team of 3 or 4 IT guys for 2,500 employees, and
2 weeks vacation maybe.
Yeah, and I was not exactly allowed to take those sequentially. It was just like, wait, you want to take those 2 weeks one after the other.
Yeah, no.
It's like, yeah.
Are you quitting?
Yeah. It's like, well, I got to fly 13 hours to Europe. So yeah, I would like to take them one after the other instead of flying back and then back. Yeah. No, and in here, it's just like that the pace of life is much different. And the beer is not bad.
The beer is not bad.
It's not bad. It could be improved. I'm not gonna lie.
The last
Greg's working on that.
I'm gonna be a bit of a heretic, and I'm gonna say, like, honestly, I miss California for the beer.
Really?
I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
Beer and surfing.
Beer and surfing. I guess, and then friends and family. Yeah.
That is interesting. So you prefer Californian beer to German beer?
The variety there is
that's
insane.
It's the variety. It's like if I want a Belgian whatever, a quadruple, a triple, or whatever, I can walk down to like the AM PM. You know what I mean? Like the local gas station and pick up one of those. Not even liquor store, like the gas station.
Yeah, and you can get what you.
And I can pick up like a good IPA.
Yeah. It's something people say there's a lot of variety of beers here, but actually they're all very similar, aren't they?
That's the thing. There's literally, I think there's about 8 or 9 types.
Yeah, like a Helles is a Helles, a Pils is a Pils.
Pils, you have Kellerbier, you have Dunkelbier, du hast
Wheat beer, Weissbier.
Weissbier, Dunkelweißbier, Märzen, Rauchbier.
Yeah, you have seasonal ones too.
Yeah, a couple seasonals, right? In California, I could literally sit here for the next 2 hours and list beers. Yeah. And it's from England, it's from Australia, it's from China to Japan, it's whatever. And they can brew whatever they want. And that's the biggest problem that I have with Germany is the Reinheitsgebot. And that's the thing, it's not actually a law anymore, but people feel like it's a bit of a
marketing thing now.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what it's become. And the thing is also, though, you can produce such awesome beer under the Reinheitsgebot. But then as soon as, especially in Franconia, as soon as you start producing something that's a little bit out of the norm, people freak out. And they don't like it. No, and that's actually this brewery, Hedel. He does some really crazy stuff. Okay. But he still does these 2 beers.
Right.
Why? Because this is what people
buy. That's his staple,
Yeah, and that's what he makes money on. And the other stuff that he does, it's all experimental, which I totally respect him for. Yeah. He's one of the very, very, very few people who do that. Yeah. And otherwise, it's like, you have breweries all over the place, and the beer's not bad. I mean, the beer's good. Yeah. God damn it, it's good. If you want a standard pale ale, come to Germany. Yeah. There's a 14 million standard pale ales.
You choose anyone and you're getting a pretty good one.
It's not going to be bad, pretty much.
But it's the variety that's like...
Oettinger is terrible, but otherwise you're fine. No, and that's the thing, though, that people are just like, with Germany, the beer is great. And I'm like, it's great, but it's kind of simple. Yeah. It's kind of, it's lacking in character. Yeah. Until you go to like somewhere like Berlin or you go to somewhere like Hamburg. And then all of a sudden it's like, shit,
a lot more things.
Yeah, they got a lot going on here in the beer culture.
Yeah. All right. Thank you both so much for having me and for having this chat. And
thanks for coming out.
So don't forget the bonus episode coming out with Greg talking about home brewing beer. That's coming out later this week. Stay tuned to your podcast feeds. Now, don't forget, I have a Facebook group that you can join if you want to follow the show or just have some discussions about the episode. And by the way, if you decide to join the Facebook group, please answer my questions. I've had a lot of people wanting to join the group, but they don't answer any of the questions. And when you don't, it makes it very difficult for me to see where you're coming from. Are you a scammer? Are you going to be just coming into the group to post advertisements for something like that? It's all the stuff that I don't want. So I can't tell if you don't answer the questions. And at least, even if you don't answer the other questions, at least say that you'll abide by the rules. Otherwise, I've declined. I can't tell you how many people I've declined in the last week. And it really hurts my heart because I've got the feeling that some of those people may actually really want to be in the group. I've also got the feeling that some of those other people were bots or some kind of scammers because they've got like 11 friends and have followed dozens of Bitcoin groups on Facebook. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but if you've legitimately tried to join the group, but I've declined you in the last weeks, it's nothing personal. It's nothing personal, but just try again and give me a little more information so that I can work with something. I need to know you're not a spammer or someone who's going to harass the other group members. But I'd still love you to join the group. Come and join the group. Have some fun. That's it for this week. If you want to get in touch with me, info@thegermanyexperience.de. Music in this episode, theme song by my band, 10 Cent Janes. Other music in the episode, Until the End by Ryan Anderson. We'll talk again next week. Auf Wiederhören.